Hello, this is Shahid Siddiqui. Today we are going to talk about use of literature and media in teacher education. But before we talk about this subject, let us focus on the role of school in a society. There was a time when school was considered as the most important social institution because it used to play a vital role in the construction of thinking of a society. The reason was that two other social institutions, that is, religion and family, were also with it. But with the passage of time, two important developments took place. One, that the two social institutions, religion and family, parted ways with school. And the second important development was the emergence of another very important social institution called media. So the position of school in current times is weaker than it used to be in the past. In the wake of 21st century, when we see tremendous changes, when we look at our educational system, it looks that it is frozen in time. In most of the public sector schools, the classroom environment is not enabling. When we talk about environment, basically we are talking about two different kinds of environments. One, the physical environment that includes physical facilities like cooling and heating, availability of clean water, washrooms, four walls, etc. It also includes furniture. The second very important component of environment in school is the actual process of teaching and learning. And this is very important for a student to have an enabling environment in classroom. Unfortunately, most of the public sector classrooms divide this kind of enabling environment. In most of the cases, the students are discouraged to ask questions. They are discouraged to disagree with what the teacher says. The result is that we are producing students who are not thinking human beings. Our classrooms are generally divorced from the real life. They are the places which are very dull and boring, and we don't see any real life in our classrooms. That is why there is a lack of motivation for students to learn. The emergence of media as a social institution has become another center of learning, and it is considered to be more effective than a school. The reasons are that media is a social institution where learning can be done in a very pleasant manner, where message can be communicated in less time to more people beyond the geographical boundaries. Also, by using latest devices, we can learn at home, at our own time, at our own pace. So there are certainly clear advantages of media. Now let's come back to the situation of Pakistan, where there is a lot of emphasis on formal schooling and two other important sources of knowledge, that is non-formal education and informal education, are totally ignored. As 21st century impacted different walks of life, so there are clear implications for education system as well. And these implications are for pedagogical practices, for our curriculum and textbooks, for our assessment system, for our students, and of course for our teachers. When we talk of teachers, we are also concerned about the quality of teacher education in vogue in Pakistan. Most of the teacher education programs in Pakistan are in fact supporting, perpetuating the same transmission-based teaching in schools. Instead of inculcating some change among teachers, they are further strengthening those stereotypes of positivistic teaching. So there is a need to make our classrooms more attractive and more relevant. Only in this kind of classroom, students will get motivated, and this motivation can lead to their meaningful learning. In this video, I'll be sharing with you my experience of teaching on teacher education programs, and this is with special reference to using authentic material. When we talk of authentic material, basically we are referring to that kind of material which is not essentially made or written or created for teacher education. But this material can lead to some very meaningful discussions, and this material can motivate and inspire the participants of a workshop or course or program. I tried to bring in literature and literary books, novels, short stories, and also some films to a teacher education program, and the result was very positive. The students were very motivated, and we could discuss educational theories which were otherwise very boring and dull. Literature has its own advantages because literature usually is very interesting and students get motivated and inspired. Through literature, there is indirect communication, and the feelings and passions are heightened through literature. But before I share with you the literary text, let me talk about a letter which also resembles a literary text. It was a letter written by the American President Abraham Lincoln to the teacher of his son. It's a long letter, but here I'll share with you only 3 excerpts from that letter. Teach him, if you can, that 10 cents earned is of far more value than a dollar found. In school, teacher, it is far more honorable to fail than to cheat. Teach him to learn how to gracefully lose and enjoy winning when he does win. Teach him, if you can, the wonders of books, but also give time to ponder the extreme mystery of birds in the sky, bees in the sun, and flowers on a green hill. Teach him to have faith in his own ideas, even if everyone tells him they are wrong. Try to give my son the strength not to follow the crowd when everyone else is doing it. Teach him to listen to everyone, but teach him also to filter all that he hears on a screen of truth and take only the good that comes through. One of the novels which I used in a teacher education programs was Braithwaite, To Serve with Love. This is a story of a young engineer who got his degree but couldn't get a job anywhere. And he ended up in a school in London East End. This was a very special kind of school because here there were students who were rejected from all other schools. So there was a serious problem of discipline here. That is why no teacher could stay here for a long time. So here comes a young graduate, Mark, who couldn't get a job anywhere, and this was his first experience of teaching. The students were very rowdy and they had discipline problem. And for first few days, Mark had a tough time. But he was there to stay. With his patience, with his commitment, and with his consistency, and also with his interest in the lives of students, he finally won the hearts of his students. Whenever I showed this movie in teacher education program, I could see a special kind of motivation. Students in that course, they wanted to act like Mark, and they discussed that how commitment and hard work and sincerity can lead to success in teaching. Another novel which I used quite often was Goodbye Mr. Chips by James Hilton. This novel is about a teacher whose name was Chips. And initially he was a very strict teacher, but when he got married, his wife had a very mellow effect on him and he became a very loving teacher. And finally, students started loving him because of his very affectionate attitude. In Urdu, we also come across a novel by Bano Kulsiya called Raja Gid. There is a character of Professor Sohail there who is very young and who is interested in unorthodox teaching styles, and he wants his students to be innovative, creative, and do things in a very different manner. We also come across some short stories where we see character of a teacher, like Russian writer Chekhov's short story, The Schoolmaster. This is a story of a school teacher who is very committed, very determined, and he wants to change his students. And in the process, he finds a lot of opposition as well. But he is the one who is committed and sincere to the cause of his students. In Urdu, we see a very interesting story by Ashfaq Ahmed. The title of that story is Gadariya. And the central character in that story is a teacher whose name is Daoji. And he is very sincere and committed to the learning of his students. And he spends a lot of time with his students without charging any money. We come across another short story, Zamzama-e Muhabbat by Ghulam Saqlain. This is the story of a teacher whose love and whose passion for teaching and whose sincerity won the hearts of his students, and his students focus on their studies just because of his affectionate behavior. Apart from books, novels and short stories, there were some movies which helped me a lot in teacher education programs. And one of that movies was The Dead Poets Society. This is a story of a teacher, John Keating, who is an English literature teacher and who doesn't believe in orthodox ways of teaching. He is a very creative person, very innovative person, and he wants his students to be innovative, to find their own voices. And for that, he believes that knowledge is not just in books. You have to experience for yourself. And he organizes a number of co-curricular activities to make the personalities of his students more holistic. Stand and Deliver is another very interesting movie which can be used in a teacher education program. This is the story of a mathematics teacher who goes to a school where the mental level of students was not very high. He was teaching them calculus, but because of his dedication and hard work and commitment, he gave them extra time, he gave them summer classes, and finally they were able to pass a very tough AP calculus examination. Another very interesting movie was The Freedom Writer's Diary. This is again a story of a teacher who, with her students, used to write diaries, and through writing, they were able to change their lives and the life around them. Similarly, we find some very good movies which can be used in teacher education program. They are in Urdu language, like Tare Zameen Par, Three Idiots, Black, and all these movies, they focus on one very important pedagogical point, that it's the teacher whose actions, whatever he or she says or does, becomes curriculum, is important. So a teacher can make the lives and a teacher can destroy lives. These three movies, they communicate this message very clearly and very effectively. I shared with you these examples just to make my point that in 21st century, we cannot just opt for those narrow alleys of different subjects. This is a time for interdisciplinary approach. This is the time to get insights from different disciplines, to have a fuller picture of life. This is the time where we have to link our old pedagogy with the new media. This is the time that we have to extend the teaching materials which we have on our syllabus with the materials which are lying out there. This is the time that we have to create spaces for creativity and innovation for our students. This is the time that we prepare our students for the requirements of 21st century. And all this is possible if our teachers are prepared to cope with this big challenge. And the success of a teacher largely depends on the quality of our teacher education programs. If we want to succeed in 21st century, we have to produce thinking teachers. And if we are interested in producing thinking teachers, we have to totally redesign our teacher education programs. Thank you.